Hey guys, welcome back to Elise Reads and Speaks. Sorry it's been a while, I've been super busy, but I thought I would plow right into my June wrap-up. So at the beginning of the month, I read Beautiful Days by Anna Godberson. That is the second one in the Bright Young Thing, so I'm not going to recap it for you for any spoilers, but just know that I gave it 3 stars, and that has been a fun series. I finished the third one this month, which will be on my next month wrap-up, and it is a good time. So the next book that I read in the month of June was On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. Now this one was a little disappointing for me because I really loved The Hate U Give, so I was expecting to read this one and feel the same type of pull that I got from her debut novel, and it just didn't have that for me. I think one of the main problems with it is that I personally am just not into hip-hop, so I was trying to like the story, and it was about hip hop. I mean, it's right there in the summary, and it just that part of it was not for me. And also, I found the main character a little less likable than the main character that was in The Hate U Give. And On the Come Up, the main character, she doesn't make a lot of smart choices, and I get that that makes her more of a realistic character, okay? We can't make great choices all the time. But I thought that hers at points were kind of stubborn and hard-headed, and she should have seen that there was a better choice to make than the one that she was making, so I found it harder to like her than the star in The Hate U Give. But hey, that's just my personal preference on books. I gave that one 3 stars because I think her novels are important. They shed a lot of light on the racial injustice that African Americans are feeling now. And I think that's important. I mean, we should all feel that that's important. And it's going to speak to other people. It just wasn't one for me. But the next book I read, I absolutely loved, and I've already given you little snippets in my previous videos. It is The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo. This one was fantastic. Like, I usually am not into poetry. I mean, I don't know. It's just not for me. It's kind of like, great, you wrote a poem. Oh, okay, it's wonderful. But this was completely different. I listened to the audiobook, and it was the narrator doing her own work, so she knew the way that it should be said, and it made such a huge impact. And there were things in there that I felt like I was Ziamaro, however you say it. And we were so different, and yet I felt like she represented so many different women. And I think that really speaks to the writing, when you feel a pull to a character that may not be exactly like you, but somehow you still feel kind of represented through it. I mean, it was just fantastic. Like, I know what it's like to grow up in a Catholic family and be confirmed in everything and not really believe any of it. And I felt like this character, when she was talking about getting confirmed, even though she doesn't believe, I'm like, whoa, dude, I've been there. So, you know, not everything was a parallel between me and Ziamara. Like, my mom is awesome, her mom is not. But again, there are so many facets to this character that I think will draw other women in. And I haven't talked to a single person that has either read or listened to this audiobook that was like, terrible. No. Everyone likes it. So if you haven't tried this book yet, The Poet X, give it a shot. So the next book that I listened to in the month of June was Kill the Boy Band by Goldy Maldovsky. Now, I had never heard of this one. You probably haven't either. The only reason that I picked it out of the audiobook selection in my library catalog was because I recognized the narrator. The narrator, Barrett Wilbert Weed, is somebody that I was a TA for when she went to Elon. I was a senior and she was a freshman. I was a TA for her Acting 1 class. So it was one of those things like, yay, Elon, I want to support. So I gave it a listen. And it was fun. Like, that was a really fun book. If you have ever been a boy band fangirl, okay, you know that I'm into NSYNC because of that NSYNC book tag that I put up. I will link that down below. If you have ever been a fangirl for any boy band, you are going to enjoy this book. Like, it's about how girls just take their love for boy bands a little bit too far and kind of look back on it and you're like, why was I like that? I don't know. And this book kind of showed the girls going off the deep end, but it was a fun ride. Like, I don't know why this one has not gotten any buzz. It was so much fun. I listened to it and it was just like, I couldn't stop listening to it. I put it on as I was doing things because I just needed to see what happened next. So it was kind of like a murder mystery when you're getting through it because somebody in the boy band dies. That's why it's called Kill the Boy Band. But you also don't know, like, who exactly killed them because all these girls are kind of nuts. It was so fun. And then I did a completely different turn and I listened to The Nazi Hunters by Neal Bascomb. And that was okay. It was nonfiction. I gave it 3 stars because it didn't like bore me to tears or anything. I found it very educational. I had never heard of Adolf Eichmann, and he was somebody that, after being a major person in the concentration camps and really exterminating people, he went into hiding for years and nobody could find him. And it was about these people that were trying to find where he had went to. He went to Argentina, and it was just about how he was hiding after he did all this terrible crap, and the people around him knew what he did. Like, at least his very tight-knit family knew what he was capable of, and nobody said anything. I mean, he was in hiding for years. So that in itself was interesting. It was just like, I'm not heavy into nonfiction, and this was not the type of nonfiction that's going to pull you in and grip you. It was educational, so I gave it 3 stars for that, because it was all right. It was all right. So the next audiobook that I went into was Another Day by David Levithan. Now, the reason that I went onto this book is because Alex over at Hooked on Books, and I will put her channel below, go check out her channel, she's great. She was talking about Every Day by David Levithan, which is the first one in that series, and I remember thinking, oh yeah, that was really great. Like, I really like that book because it made you question sexuality. Like, am I attracted to the person that's inside, or do I need a specific outer shell? Like, when I'm attracted to a man, is it because he is a man, or is it because he's the person inside, or do I need both of those things? I think that it poses a lot of interesting questions, because it's about this person that jumps from body to body to body every day. So sometime this person A is a male, sometimes A is a female. That person is always looking under the surface because that's the only thing that they know. And it kind of makes you think, like, all the people that I have fallen in love with in the past, is it because they were male that I was able to do that? Like, I think it poses a lot of interesting questions. I will say that I liked Every Day more than Another Day. Another Day tells the perspective from the girl's point of view that A falls in love with in the first book. And this girl is in a toxic relationship in high school. And I just wanted to be like, why? Like, I don't understand. This person that you're in a relationship is clearly horrible, and yet you're staying in a relationship with them, and it's high school. Like, what does that do for you? I don't understand. So I felt like this relationship that was being written was almost kind of being written for like 20 to 30-year-olds, and it kind of took me out of it to know that these were just kids in high school. Like, I don't know. It really annoyed me more than anything. And I wanted her, to, of course, fall in love with A and cheat on her boyfriend and whatnot, which I'm like, okay, I don't normally root for that. So, I won't say that I didn't like it. I gave it 3 stars, so I liked it enough. It held my attention, but it was also kind of like, it just didn't have the same oomph that the first one did for me. And then I finally finished The Diviners by Libba Bray. That took me like 2 months. Okay, it is a fat book. There were things I liked. There were things I didn't like. I felt like all the religious zealot kind of stuff I was not super into, but there were also some really interesting things in there with character work and things with characters that I wasn't expecting. Like, why would I have been expecting that with Jericho? Okay, I'm sure you weren't either, but for the fact that it was a book that took me 2 months to read, I mean, that should tell you that I wasn't like dying to flip through the pages, I gave it 3 stars because, again, there were great things and there were not so great things, and I kind of want to see what happens next, so I'll go on to the next one. And I heard that they do get better as the books go on. So in case you remember, I first tried to listen to this one on audiobook and I was completely lost. I was like, I don't really know what's happening. And as I'm reading the book back, I realized that there were a lot of names. There was some time jumping. So of course, I mean, listening to the audiobook, that's a lot. That's a lot. Like, if you've tried to listen to the audiobook and you saw that you just couldn't get into it because you didn't know what was happening, give the physical book a try, because I ended up liking that one better than the audiobook. All right, next one was Odd One Out by Nic Stone. I was not a fan of this one. I gave it 2 stars. Let me try and recap this for you. All right, so this boy is in love with a girl. Okay, the girl is a lesbian. She likes other girls. She falls in love with a girl, all right? This other girl has been, like, leading girl number 1 on, and then kind of decides she's in love with the first boy. And then that girl in the middle that kind of got snubbed realizes she's also in love with the boy. It's just like, it was messy. It was as messy as it sounds. And there were some things in there that I really had a problem with this. I alluded to this in my Goodreads review. And there is just this memory of mine that sticks out in my head. I used to work in retail, and this girl was, just talking about her sexuality. She was a lesbian, and some stupid guy in the stockroom was just like, well, that's because you haven't met the right guy yet. And I was like, oh, what a horrible, horrible, terrible thing to say. I don't know why you would say something like that. And she got livid, as she should have been, because she was like, I'm in charge of my sexuality. How are you telling me something that I should feel? And I felt like that. And I felt for her, And reading this book, it kind of made me angry because it took this girl that was a self-proclaimed lesbian and then at the end made her fall in love with a guy. And I just feel like a book like this is dangerous because stupid closed-minded people will read it and be like, well, see, she thought she was a lesbian too and now she likes boys. I'm sure that wasn't what the author intended. And actually the author's note at the end of the book was really, really good. And it almost made me bump it to 3 stars, but then I thought of all the issues that I had with the book, so I kept it at 2. It makes me a little angry. And there were also some things in there that I was not okay with, like, okay, girl number 1 pretty much told girl number 2 no, and then girl number 2 kissed her anyway. Like, dude, when somebody outright tells you no, why are you trying to kiss them? Why? I'm not okay with that. And then girl number 1 with some girl that wasn't involved in this stupid little trio to begin with, she also pushed herself on somebody when that person was saying no. And I'm like, why is this happening again in your book? And the last one I listened to was Daughter of the Siren Queen by Tricia Levenseller. I listened to the first one, Daughter of the Pirate King, and I mean, that one was all right. I'm not heavy into pirates, but I thought, like, okay, that was a fun story, and I think I read that last year, maybe even the year before. So I was kind of just assuming the same thing would happen with this one. And I think this was a case of a theme not being for me. I'm not heavy into pirates, but I always try and push myself into things that I'm not usually into because sometimes you will find a hidden gem, like the Poet X, No, not this time. The relationship between the 2 main people, I felt like kind of fizzled out, and I thought it was a little hot in the first one, so I don't really know what happened there. And then there were cool things with the sirens that I felt like I was finding out in the first book that just, again, kind of petered out in the second one. I did not think this was a good follow-up. Alright, so in total, I think almost all the books that I read this month, I gave 3 stars to, except there was 1 2-star and 1 5-star. So it was kind of like an okay reading month. Nothing crazy. Alright, I've got stuff on my list for next month, well, this month since we're already in July, that I have already been enjoying, so I will be more excited to talk about those later. Alright, that's all I've got for today. Thank you for tuning in to Elise Reads and Speaks. If you like these videos, go ahead, click that subscribe button, click the little bell next to it so you get a little notification every time that I do a new video, and thank you for tuning in. I will catch you next time, guys. Bye!